Colts fans, welcome to the second episode of the Colts Unplugged pod. I am your co-host, Ati Logan, joined with my co-host, Pro Fan Logan. Logan, I think I got to change my name to All I Feel Is Pain because after that performance last night on Sunday Night Football, all I feel is pain. Let's just kind of get right into it. How do you feel, man? I know you were watching it with some friends. I guess, how did that go?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Addy, All I Feel Is Pain has a nice little alliteration to it, a little AA. So yeah, Addy, All I Feel Is Pain would definitely line up with our experience as Colts fans. I would say at first, definitely some excitement just to see what the team was going to look like with Flacco in there, just because we had seen some excitement in the 3 games that he did play, as far as the offense looking different, the passing game looking a little bit more effective, right? So as we talked about in episode 1, I was excited to see what the offense was going to look like, and I was very quickly depressed about about a quarter into the game when I realized, oh no, we're in for one of those primetime games. We're in for one of those
Yo.
primetime games of why the Colts don't get primetime games anymore. And that was very disappointing. Obviously, I do, want to say there was the great bright spot, and there were some moments that my friends and I, as we were watching it, got to get excited, obviously, with the defensive plays that were made. Kenny Moore had a fantastic game. Grover Stewart had the best game of his career so far as a
Big
Colt.
dog.
DeForest Buckner. Yeah. I love watching Grover Stewart play for sure. DeForest Buckner had a fantastic game. It was fun to watch him go to work. Zaire Franklin came up big, had quite a few plays, had a great game as well. Had a big interception and a couple really big stops in the backfield. So there were some things that were fun. There were some moments that I got to experience a little bit of happiness. But yeah, overall, I'm with you. It was pretty painful, especially that second half, to watch that game. And unfortunately, the entire world got to see why the Colts don't get a lot of primetime games. So,
But I don't know if you can. I would almost
very,
say
very depressing.
fortunately. I would almost say fortunately, like people outside of Colts fans, people outside of Colts local media can finally see like this is Joe Flacco. I'm sorry to all you box score watchers that watch the Colts game and think like Joe
Yeah.
Flacco is some elite level quarterback. He's never been an elite level quarterback throughout his career. He's always been like kind of that up and down guy, roller coaster guy of a quarterback, and you kind of saw that more downs than ups yesterday. But Logan, what a wasted opportunity. This whole entire season we're like, Gus Bradley sucks, fire Gus Bradley, it's time to move on for Gus Bradley, and he's put on a couple of good games. I think like over 35% blitz percentage over the last 3 games, and that defense came to play. But when the offense couldn't stay on the field, this is kind of reminiscent of like the 2022 or 2023 offense, or sorry, 2022 offense with Matt Ryan, where they couldn't stay on the field and the defense was gassed even though they were performing well. But Zaire Franklin made some big plays. Grover Stewart, Kenny Moore, Nick Cross, like the entire D line came to ball. And as much as a critic we've been, this entire season about Gus Bradley, like he showed up. He showed up. He had that bend don't break, kind of that Eberflus-like defense that we've seen in past years.
Yes.
They give up a lot of yards, high completion percentage, but either field goals or takeaways, turnovers, missed opportunities, things of that nature. But what a missed opportunity by this Shane Steichen and this Colts offense, man, to be able to capitalize on that, capitalize on good defensive play. It feels like they just can't put a holistic game together, offense and defense. It's always got to be one side just kind of balling out. That was really and we'll get into Joe Flacco and stuff, but that was really my biggest frustration was the lack of effort, the lack of just holding accountability on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I actually did have one tweet already queued up that both of us had commented on our individual Twitters about. It was from Jim Aiello on Twitter, or on X rather. And he said that tonight, so last night, the Colts offense had 6 points, which was their lowest of the year, right? 0 red zone drives. That's big. 0
Terrible.
red zone drives, their lowest of the year. 13 first downs, their lowest of the year. 227 yards of offense, their lowest of the year. And then finally, negative 0.35 EPA per play, their lowest of the year. So, quite literally, the whole bringing in Joe Flacco to be a better team, be a better offense right now and compete better right now, quite literally backfired right in the face of Shane Steichen, right in the face of Chris Ballard, right in the face of Jim Irsay, and right in the face of pretty much anyone involved with that decision from
Yep.
last week. And I got to say, I'm a little shocked at how bad it was. I thought there could be a world, right, where Flacco struggled a little bit, but I did not expect all around, all across the board, the worst offensive performance of the entire season. That definitely caught me off guard. I
Yeah,
gotta
I
say.
100% agree. I tweeted last night, like during the game, I was like, wow, there's so much that AR can learn from this game. All the underthrows, all the overthrows, all the throwing into triple coverage. I mean, you had Joe Flacco looking like Derek Carr throwing to
Yeah.
Chris Olave in the 1 p.m. slate where, he got concussed. Chris Olave got concussed because of a hospital ball. Like we saw that with Pittman and his finger. We saw
Yep.
that with Ashton Dulin. Like Joe Flacco was out there like killing wide receivers, killing his own teammates. And
Mm-hmm.
multiple underthrows, multiple overthrows, multiple bad decisions, like horrible throw into triple coverage. Lucky it wasn't a pick. He was trying to throw into the flat when the pocket was collapsing. Lucky that wasn't a pick, and then he threw that awful pick on that, I think that corner route to Josh Downs, just completely underthrew it. If I'm Anthony
Mm-hmm.
Richardson, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, wow, this was a discourse the entire week. Hey, we're going to start Joe Flacco. He gives us the best chance to win. Pat McAfee saying, and Darius Butler saying, we're contenders now. We've got a president. We've got a CEO at quarterback. All to come out and put this shitter. The irony, it's laughable. It was
Mm-hmm.
honestly laughable. And I just sat there like I was watching the
Yeah.
game in Discord with my friends that live across the country and across the states, and they're just laughing at my pain. And I'm just like, I'm happy because actually I don't know what I am, because as a Colts fan, like I'm always gonna bleed blue, just like Seth says, like we're gonna be Colts fans regardless who's at
Yeah.
quarterback. But I'm so happy that the world got to see this. I'm so happy that the national media got to see this putrid performance after saying bench AR, bench AR, bench AR. I think there's a lot more
Yeah.
wrong with this offense than Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, and to that point, that was the question that I wanted to pose to you, and sort of what I wanted to get into next. Obviously, very apparent, right? And I made a comment to you about this after the game. Very apparent that Joe Flacco was bad. He did not have a great game. Bad. It was bad. There really weren't a lot of redeeming qualities about that game for him. But I do think after I went back and I looked at it, I would put a little bit more of the blame, me personally, on Shane Steichen. I really feel like he has been horrid the last 3 to 4 games now. It's becoming this weird trend with him
Mm-hmm.
of very questionable decisions. I know we talked about it briefly. What were your thoughts on how he called the game, number one? Maybe some of the decisions that he made. And then also his usage of Jonathan Taylor in the third quarter when it was
Yeah.
afterwards he announced that there was no injuries to report. So he wasn't injured, it turns out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what were your thoughts, I guess, just on as a whole of like how he called the game and where most of
Yeah.
the blame should go for this
I mean,
loss?
I will say I've been, and I think I've told you this multiple times. I've been a huge, just like a Steichen backer. Like he's playing well. I'm
Mm-hmm.
holding on to kind of what last year was like. I haven't had the chance to watch the full all 22 yet, but after you made those comments, I
Yeah.
kind of went back and reflected and watched some of the game again. And I was like, wow, some of these play calls were iffy. They were just iffy, and it's not only for me, Logan, just the play calls. It was the lack of adjustment, because we saw in the second half the Vikings started sending blitzers everywhere, and that's what they're kind of known for, is blitzing a shit ton. But it
Mm-hmm.
seemed like they
Mm-hmm.
typically, at least in the first half, they dropped back into coverage. The second half they brought the blitz, and that's been Steichen's Achilles heel this entire season, is for that offensive line how to stop the blitz, corner blitzes, just
Yeah.
funny looking style blitzes, things of that nature, bringing the defensive end to the interior. and on a loop and different plays like that. And it just seems like Steichen had zero answer, like he's had the entire season. Like I said, I've been a big defender of Shane Steichen. I think a head coach carousel and firing your head coach after 2 seasons is going to do a lot more harm than good, because it's almost like a QB carousel all over again. You want to have some type of stability in your organization. I'm not on the fire Steichen train right now, but I'm on the Steichen. You got to start figuring your shit out, because some of the comments you made today, some of the play calling has been sus over the last couple of weeks. And I go back and look, and sometimes I'm just like, maybe maybe Steichen has these things dialed up, but AR is just missing the easy reads. Just not throwing the ball to the flat. We saw Flacco do that a couple of times yesterday, just kind of missed the easy reads, didn't throw to the flat. But it seems like the theme has been first down, hey, big explosive play. Second down, let's make up for it because we didn't convert that. And third down is 3rd and 8, which is why they had a 3 for 11. They were 3 for 11 on third downs last night. It was always 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, things of that nature. So those were
terrible.
Those were my thoughts. And then lack of uses of JT, like you asked, I don't even know. Like it just seems like Steichen. I don't know. Does he like JT? Because it seems like there's multiple situations this year, going back to last year, where he just didn't use him in crucial situations.
Yep.
I don't know.
It's like, to me, it's just like a gross thing to watch. It's disgusting to see him not use the best offensive weapon on the Indianapolis Colts by far, and somebody that they paid him that money, they restructured his contract to be the focal point of this offense. And to go an entire third quarter without playing him, to find out afterwards that he wasn't actually injured. He reported to the media. He was like, yeah, there's no injuries to report. Craziness. Like, you're in a tight game with the Vikings the entire way through to the very end. There was just no excuse. The game plan didn't call for dropping back 40 times with Joe Flacco and letting it rip. It just wasn't that type of game. So I couldn't agree more. Yeah, the play calling for me was questionable. Only 13 carries for Jonathan Taylor. Just can't happen. I mean, he's your bell cow back, and if you're in a tight game within a 2-score game, 1-score game, and you're still in it, and it's not late in the fourth quarter, he needs to be touching the ball a couple times a drive. I mean, it's just silly, whether that's in the passing game or whether that's in the running game. And he's in his prime of his career. He doesn't need to get subbed out all the time. You know what I mean? Like, look at what Saquon Barkley's doing for the Eagles right now, man. He's making around the same amount of money that JT is. Look at what Derrick Henry's doing right now, man, for the Ravens at 30 years old.
5 years older.
I mean, come on. It's crazy. So, yeah, that was disappointing for me.
I guess what's my question to you, I guess, it's what's changed, because last year, we didn't really have the most mobile quarterback in Gardner Minshew last year, played majority of the games, I think 13 or 14 of the games last year. Obviously he's 10 years younger, 9 years younger than Joe Flacco, but he wasn't really he's not known as a dual threat quarterback. What's changed? I got to go back and look at the numbers, but it just seems like, JT, when healthy last year, was averaging way more yards per carry last season than this season. And obviously we know JT's averaging over 5 yards per carry when Anthony Richardson's starting, because of the, Anthony Richardson's legs being taken into consideration by defenses, versus 3.4 yards per carry with Joe Flacco. Yesterday he averaged 3.7 yards per carry, only touched the ball 13 times yesterday. So I'm curious, what the hell has changed? Because it seems like this offensive line is the same or gotten better. Why is this run game struggling? Because most QBs or most coaches in the NFL, they don't have dual threat quarterbacks. It's always, I guess that's a lie. A lot of coaches do have dual threat quarterbacks, but a lot of coaches still find a way, like the Lions, who have Jared Goff and a really good O-line, to still get the run game going. So I'm curious, why? Why are we struggling?
It's what they're built on, and that's what I'm saying. Like the Colts, the way they stacked their players that they pay. For example, they have the highest paid offensive line, right, in the NFL combined. And the way they restructured Jonathan Taylor's contract, they clearly told the NFL, and they told themselves, they told everyone, that their identity was going to be a run first football team first and foremost. So it's like, why like on 1st and 10, for example, like you mentioned, it just seems like Steichen wants to just take a shot every single time instead of just getting the offense in a little bit of a flow and letting Jonathan Taylor run it on 1st and 10. But then instead on 2nd and 10, they'll run a draw play from the shotgun and hand it off to JT where he's already 3 or 4 yards in the backfield, right? And so I
Yeah.
do think a lot of the struggle in the run game could come down to offensive play calling of when you're calling those runs, right? If you're running it on 2nd and 15 after you got a holding penalty, right? If you're running it on 3rd and 8 instead of on 1st and 10 or 2nd and 3, right? Like it's just a lot better of a situation to call that run play, and the defense is not going to be so locked in and know what's coming. So it's I do think that some of the lack of run game, this even when AR has been on the field, it comes down to when he's dialing up those runs and what type of runs he's calling. There's a lot of RPO type stuff, a lot of shotgun running from the shotgun, um, and I do think it's tough sometimes to get going as a running back when you're already 3 or 4 yards in the backfield, right? When you touch
Yeah.
the ball, so.
And I will say, I guess there's not a lot of props to give from yesterday's offensive performance, but one thing I will say, Steichen, is you held on to the run game. You didn't lose it despite JT only having 13 carries. You saw Trey Sermon run the ball a little bit over there, but they had their first drive was primarily runs. If you really look into it, and it just broke down because
Yeah.
JT and Joe Flacco fumbled a snap.
The fumble, yeah.
Exactly. But I liked, they stuck with the run a little bit there, which was nice, despite not having a lot of success. But you can't be all one dimensional. That's the big thing there. Another thing too is left tackle Bernard Ryman out with a concussion this game. You have Dalton Tucker, I believe. I'm probably messing it up. But right guard Dalton Tucker in replacing Will Fries, who's out with a fractured tibia or fibula for the entire season. So you got a little bit of change there, and it doesn't help. It doesn't help that your All-Pro center, your Pro Bowl center, who's averaging, I think last game he had like a 50 PFF grade on run block and on pass block. And this is the same guy that was the only guy told that Anthony Richardson was going to be benched. He was the guy that was up there saying this is not the standard. Ryan Kelly, what is the standard? Because you've been outplayed by rookie Bortolini. I probably mispronouncing his name too. Bortolini.
Bortolini has been outplaying him massively. Yeah.
So where's the standard? You talk about accountability. You talk about this being the standard. Ryan Kelly, it's time to talk to you, because if I'm the Colts, I don't know if I'm sellers or what I am this by Tuesday's deadline, by tomorrow's trade deadline. But if I can move Ryan Kelly, God damn, I'd move him, bro, because he is not playing well at all this entire season. I'd rather develop Tanner, but we all know Colts apparently don't like developing young players. Anthony Richardson. So.
Yeah, he seems disinterested. I agree with you. Like even in his media interviews and things like that, like he seems disinterested on top of already playing poorly. So that's just a terrible combination to deal with there. So yeah, definitely quite a few things to point to in the run game that I could say that you can kind of look at. But the bottom line is that was supposed to be the Colts' identity, like we said, and it's not happening right now. So they're not helping out Anthony Richardson at all, really, and they're not really helping Joe Flacco at all when he's out there either by the lack of run game. So that definitely needs to get cleaned up. Going off that point, I know we talked obviously about the Flacco and Anthony Richardson debacle, obviously the entire episode 1. So today, Steichen came out and doubled down on his decision to play Joe Flacco, even after the worst offensive performance of the entire season by far. And he doubled down and said, Joe's our guy moving forward for the rest of the season. And he is committing to that. What was your initial reaction when you saw that?
My initial reaction was, I hate that Colts fans are always right. Like it's like if Colts fans can see, like, what the fuck are you doing, brother? Like what are you doing? And It is shocking. It is mind blowing. You know, at least we have guys like Pat McAfee and Darius Butler who are all aboard the Joe Flacco train. Colts are Super Bowl contenders. They came out today and they were like, okay, I get it. You know, we were wrong. We were on the wrong side of history. They backtracked. Like, okay, you know, we had Joe Flacco for a week. Thank you. Now, you know, AR, he's probably learning from the tap gate. Let's move on. Let's start him again. The offense was a lot more explosive. At least they recognize that. I'm tired of this coach speak. Like, I always used to think Steichen was so like unique and funny, like talking this coach talk and coach speak at the podium. I'm like, this is so cool. But it's only so cool when you're winning. Then right now when we're losing and we suck and he's refusing to move off a 39-year quarterback that's not going to be our franchise quarterback next year, it's pissing me the fuck off. Like, I saw the tweet. Like, I was in the middle of a workday. I saw the tweet, and I think my mood just changed. I was so fucking pissed off that you're starting Joe Flacco after he went 16 of 27, 179 yards, one pick, and hey, guess what? Below a 60% completion percentage yesterday. So I don't know, bro. I don't know how I feel. I'm just pissed off and in pain. So, yeah.
I couldn't agree more. It's Steichen has been acting eerily similar. It's election time of year, and he's been acting eerily similar to how politicians act with deflecting answers and being very deceptive and not really, telling the entire truth. And I'm like, Steichen, you're a head coach of an NFL team, my guy. You are not being elected as president of the United States, right? Like, let's give some straight answers here, man. Let's speak in some truth instead of all these weird, like, I don't even know. Like, he just says things that aren't giving the full truth. Like, he's always holding his cards or something. It's very odd nowadays, and I feel like he wasn't really doing that when he first came in. So it is definitely a change up.
And it seems like every single loss, it's always, it starts with me. It starts with me. I'm the head coach. It starts with me. Like, that's the answer every single time. Like, goddamn, yeah, it fucking starts with you. Be a better play caller and do what the Colts fans. I mean, how do Colts fans see it? How do us two, a guy that lives in Chicago, a guy that lives in Indianapolis, that I don't know about you. I haven't played football. I'm just a guy talking about football because I enjoy watching it ever since I was 4 years old. How can we see that the importance of developing your franchise quarterback over starting a 39-year-old that just came off the worst offensive performance, the second worst offensive performance in Steichen's tenure with the Colts, and the single-handedly worst offensive performance this season? How can you double down and say Flacco is our guy moving forward? But he also said Flacco is our guy moving forward right now. I don't know what the fuck that means. Like, what does that mean?
Again,
Flacco?
weird politician speak. I'm telling you, he can't give us a straight answer, man. It's wild.
Yeah. It pisses me off.
It's wild.
It really does
absolutely
piss me
wild.
off.
For me, kind of how I reacted at first is I made the video about it and posted on our podcast page earlier, or their TikTok.
Yeah, if you're not following, go follow me, by the way, TikTok at Colts Unplugged Pod.
Yeah, check it out. We got got a little following going over there, so appreciate you guys for supporting on that. But yeah, I talked about how this is a classic case and a classic example of a guy who realizes probably in the back of his mind that he made a mistake for the long-term success of the Indianapolis Colts, but his ego is getting in the way, bro. Like, it's all ego based for why he's not backtracking a little bit, because a couple weeks ago he was totally fine with saying we're evaluating everything. So after that performance, tell me, Steichen, why are you no longer evaluating everything when you were just evaluating everything a couple weeks ago? And this was a much worse offensive performance than a couple weeks ago. So I'm like, I'd be evaluating everything again. And I don't know why this time he's not evaluating everything. It's very odd. I mean, he keeps switching what he feels, switching what he believes. And I think Colts fans are quite frankly getting tired of it. He needs to straighten it out and like give us a straight answer and like stick with it and stop going back on what he's said before. So,
and listen, give Brian Flores his props. You know, he has a great defense, great blitz package, all that good stuff. But this is a Vikings defense, and sorry to backtrack back on the Vikings, but this is the Vikings defense that let up over 700 yards in the last 2 games, passing yards, total yards, and 60 something
Yep.
points over the last 2 games. And you're telling me your offense, I'm not even going to count one of the field goals because your offense or your defense, picked off Sam Darnold at like the 20-yard line in the red zone or right before the red zone, and you couldn't even get into the red zone and you kicked a field goal. But you had 3 total points of offense. 3 total points of offense in 4 quarters, and you're like, hey, whatever, I'm going to double down and stay with Flacco. Like, admit it. You made a mistake. Do the right thing. Start Anthony Richardson. Like, that's when we're going to have some respect for you. Like, I always had respect for you, but the fact there's so many blemishes on your resume now over the past 2 weeks. You had 0 blemishes from last season up until a week ago. And now it's just blemish after press conference, after game, after it's on me. Like, all your coach speak, it's just blemishes. Your decision-making is blemishes. Your play calling over the last 2 weeks is blemishes. And I'm tired of it, man. I'm sick and tired of it.
Yeah. Yeah, because after a while, if you keep saying it's on me, hey, they're going to come knocking on your office door and saying, okay, man, if this is on you, then why are you still our coach? You know what I mean? Like, this is how coaches get fired. I'm not saying that I'm on, like you said, like, I'm not saying that I'm on the fire Steichen train necessarily, but there's talks about it now because he's putting himself out there as saying, this is on me, this is on me, this is on me. Okay, if this is on you, bro, that's not very good for your employment moving forward.
Yeah.
If you keep messing up at work and your boss comes up to you and says, what's going on? And you keep saying, that was me, that was my bad, I did that, I messed up, I did this, and it's you every time, they're going to start connecting the dots and be like, well, what the hell? Like, why are you still here if all you're doing is messing up? So, I don't know if he's going to, if he should continue for his own employment, if he should continue standing up there on the podium every week and saying, starts with me, it starts with me, it starts with me. It's like, all right, man, you got to fix it eventually. So
exactly. Does this not remind you a little bit of, like, I'm not saying Shane Steichen's Frank Reich. For Shane Steichen is a much better play caller and I think head coach over Frank Reich. But all this over the last 2 weeks is really trying to remind me of Frank Reich and the places, the negative places it took me 2 years ago. So, like, please reverse shit.
Guys, we got to go 1-0 every week. 1-0 every week, okay? It starts with
1% better.
Accountability. Yeah.
Yep.
It is coach speak, bro. It's annoying.
And listen, Logan, I know we're going to talk about, we're coming up with a podcast our episodes 2 times a week, every Monday and Thursday. So we'll cover the Bills game and kind of our thoughts about that on Thursday. But Logan, just real quick, if you're a Colts fan and you're going to that Bills game on Sunday, how many times are you booing this team? Because if I was there, man, I'd be having those plastic bags over my head with the eye holes. I'd be booing. I have a poster that would say #FreeAR5, which is trending on Twitter, by the way. So I don't know about you. I'd be pissed if I was going to that game.
I'll be honest, bro. Like, I'm a big Josh Allen fan too, so I'm like, I might go to it just to watch a real quarterback play. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Like, this is what AR is supposed to be, like, but instead he's on the bench.
Yeah, AR is supposed to turn into this guy. Yeah. No, I can understand why people are frustrated because of the mediocrity, for sure, especially because this franchise has set such high standards during the Manning era and during the Luck era. The Colts are not a team that should be comfortable with going 500 every year or kind of just band-aiding things. Like, they have been a team that is to be reckoned with every regular season and every playoffs until Andrew Luck left. So it's very frustrating, and I can understand why fans rather of our team have had it up to here. Like, it's just something definitely has to change. And I agree with you. I was definitely I was one of the people that I will backtrack, and I will say I personally thought that starting Flacco would help us win a couple more games. Now I'm realizing that there's a lot more going on, like you're saying. Like, there's way more going on behind the scenes than just, hey, switch a quarterback in there and you guys will be fine. I don't think there's a lot of quarterbacks that we could put in there right now and that we could automatically clean things up and start winning. Like, there's some actual problems that are going on, and like we said, it starts with Steichen, as he always says.
And
Yeah,
What a
I agree
waste.
with you. Like the best thing that they can do moving forward. Oh, go ahead, sir.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, I personally think the best thing they can do moving forward, in agreement with you, is to start AR because it's very apparent that this is not a winning team this year. I think now, like, they're sitting at 4-5, and look at the freaking gauntlet that's still staring us
Gauntlet.
down ahead of us. And then people are like, "Oh, the schedule gets easier though after that because you got the Patriots and the Broncos and the Titans." I'm like, okay, division games are never easy, number one. So it doesn't matter how bad those divisional opponents are. That's still going to be a tough game. The Patriots, they're looking better with Drake May as their starter now. They're
And
looking
their
like a
defense is
competing
always
team.
good. Yep.
Yeah, their defense is always good. And the Broncos, they're not a bad team. They're not
Not
a
at
bad
all.
team. They have a good defense. And Bo Nix is capable of moving the ball down the field. So I'm like, I don't know how many of these games in the last 8 games are surefire wins. I mean, at this point,
Yeah.
I don't know if any of those games I would call them surefire wins at this point. So
I
yeah, I
100%
think the
agree.
best route is to go with AR just to get him those reps now. I don't see this team making the playoffs anymore, and I don't. Obviously, their chance at competing for the division that ended a couple weeks ago, in my opinion, with getting swept by the Texans.
So that's what I was talking about. That's what I was going to bring up real quick. And then we'll probably call it just two things. One, what a wasted
Yep.
opportunity because the defense absolutely balled out for you the past two games against two good offenses in the Texans, and then last night against the Vikings. But this division, I believe, was wide open yesterday because Houston comes off a loss against the Jets. We were 2 games behind, or we were 1 game behind or whatever. Now we're 2.5 games, 3 games behind. What a wasted opportunity to be able to get in front of a
Yeah.
Houston Texans team that's struggling. They lost. They have no O-line whatsoever. Stephon Diggs out for the season. Nico Collins should be activated this week, but they're saying, hey, we're going to take it day by day, see how he feels. What a wasted opportunity to become 1 game behind despite being swept by the Texans. Just embarrassing. Embarrassing.
It is. And it just, like I said before, it goes to show that management, as long as this continues and as long as the Colts are not competing for AFC South championships and making it to the playoffs, I'm sorry, but it shows that management is okay with the mediocrity that's been happening. It shows that Irsay is okay with Ballard's continued mediocrity and drafting a couple of good guys in the 4th and 5th round every year apparently is good enough to keep your job for 8 years, 9 years. You know what I'm saying? Like it,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's recently it hasn't been about winning anymore. It's very clear. There's been other priorities on
It's about
management
how can we get to 9
on the
wins?
front
And
office's
that's it.
mind.
Yep.
Exactly. And
Frustrating.
9 wins is not enough for me, my friend.
Nope. 9 wins and 0 divisional titles.
I'm just a fan, but just saying.
Yeah.
Pro fan Logan, 9 wins, not okay.
Not okay.
Put it
Not
on
okay.
put it on the t-shirt.
Put it on the t-shirt. Well, Colts fans, that is probably going to be it for us tonight on our second episode ever. Tune in on Thursday. We'll have our preview of the Colts and the Buffalo Bills at Lucas Oil Stadium. Make sure, guys, to follow us on all socials. That's YouTube, that's Instagram, that's TikTok, all at Colts Unplugged Pod. We're getting our X account, our Twitter account up and running. So we'll probably start posting on there soon. But just make sure to follow us, hit subscribe, follow us on all socials. And thanks for the support.